Hello there and a very warm welcome to Channels Beam, compliments of the season. I'm Victor Matthias. Now, Nigerian fintech companies witnessed a boom in the year with investments, foreign and local, as well as buyouts from global fintech companies. Now, this drew the attention of more world players in the sector. So today on the program, we will be looking at how this attention has been translated to impact, as well as how it is benefiting the Nigerian economy. And joining us to get answers as to how this is or isn't happening is Favor Uri. He is the CEO of Payday. He joins us via Zoom from Kigali in Rwanda. It's a pleasure to have you on the program, Favor. We also have with us Olushola Amuson. He is the co-founder and CEO of Vesti app. He joins us from Dallas in Texas. It's a pleasure to have you both on the program today.
Amir, it's a pleasure to be here.
Of course. So we also have joining us from Ibadan in Nigeria, Gerald Olumide. He is a full-stack developer currently working at Create Cell as the project manager. It's a pleasure to have you as well on the program, Olumide.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
Of course, you're welcome. So, I mean, let's give you the home advantage now, speaking in football terms, since you are in Nigeria. There's been a lot of developments in the fintech space in Nigeria, but, let's look at how it's translating, the impact it's having on the economy. How would you say this is, or what benefits would you say the Nigerian economy is getting generally from all of this attention that, the fintech space is getting?
All right, thank you. So basically, I'm so happy, like it's a great time to be alive. I mean, that the Nigerian company, we taking our proper place as the giants of Africa. We are actually leading in the fintech company in the whole Africa. So basically, is actually a great thing, having the youth coming together and creating something that probably over the years, I know that most of the fintech companies that we have in Nigeria is as a result of someone somewhere over, like somewhere in the past, they were trying to achieve one thing or the other in terms of transferring money or anything. And they sort of think of, let me bring a solution that is going to solve all this problem. And we have so many fintech companies coming all the way from Nigeria here and getting the attention of the whole world. This is actually something great for the economy, and I know that many Nigerians are so happy that this is actually happening.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for someone like you who is pretty much a developer, like you guys are never on the forefront, so to speak now. What has been the experience, for you working from the back end, ensuring that these things, or putting the creative minds, of the CEOs, bringing it into reality? What has been the experience?
Oh, great. Okay. Basically, I have the opportunity to work with a few startup companies, and saying that for that reason, I can tell you that the most challenging thing is starting from the ground up, and we've seen so many companies coming in place to do that. It takes a lot gathering your team, I must say.
Yeah.
People see it on the front like, okay, I use this application and it's working for me. Gathering the whole team to work on that project to get it working is not really easy. We are talking from the place of the front-end engineer, back-end engineer, the DevOps, the QA. Everybody has a team. Getting them involved and to build something great is actually takes a lot of effort. And yeah, it takes a lot. Basically, you're definitely going to be having lots of stand-ups with your engineers, everybody talking about what you've achieved over, like, let's say, 24 hours. You get to demo your work and let people see. You let your team see whatever you've done so far, and also you're definitely going to be having a little blocker here and there with your team. And these are the things that people don't get to see on the forefront.
Because, obviously. Obviously,
like,
those are the things we don't see out there. But let me just hold you there for a bit. Let me quickly bring in Favor, who is joining us from Rwanda. Favor, let's take a look at how this, this recent boom, has changed the economic outlook, of the Nigerian economy.
So far as we're out there building stuff, we're at the global stage, you're getting to YC, we're getting to Techstars. we're building out real solutions, solving problems. On the part of economic boom, we've seen these companies raise so much, and we've seen them hire a lot of people to build our products. So aside solving the real problem here, we are also creating job opportunities and solving other problems in reference to the same age. But like, yeah, that's pretty much it. That's aside creating solutions and solving problems, they also like creating opportunities for other people to like come in and also build stuff.
Yeah. Which of the aspects of fintech would you say has had the most impact? Or on what sectors would you say it has had the most impact?
We've seen the part. I feel like the largest part has been banking on banks. We've seen some people out there who have like feature phones or just like regular smaller phones, right? So we've seen the rise of agency banking. We've seen USSD. We've seen all of these new technologies coming out there. So even if you don't have a smartphone, right, you don't have an iPhone, you don't have an Android, you can still bank, you can still save money, you can still withdraw money whenever you need it. So I feel that's the largest market so far we've been targeted.
All right, fantastic. Let me also hold you there for a bit, and bring Olushola into the conversation. Olushola, one of the things that people mostly are worried about is the issue of inclusion. Into all of this, boom and emerging technology. But how inclusive would you say what we have at the moment, is when you look at the fact that, people in the rural areas, might not be able to afford some of those high-end or sophisticated hardware that you can use, to access stuff such as maybe Vesti or even Payday?
I mean, thanks very much. Now, one of the key things that companies like ours is basically trying to solve for is ensuring that inclusion is on the high rise. Now, as Favor talked about earlier, there is a massive disenfranchisement of people who should be having access to banking services. And one of the key things that fintechs have been able to offer is to be able to provide these layers of services that traditional banks are unable to provide. But then when you go further, you realize that many of these services are not provided over feature phones, USSD, and basically just on smartphones. And the work that fintechs need to continue to do is to identify ways to be able to transform that whole convention of you must access a fintech through a fancy smartphone to be able to provide those services over USSD, over voice prompt, mobile penetration is fantastic on the continent as of today and is on the rise for Nigeria as well. But as we go towards rural communities, solutions like agency banking and the ability for people to be able to access, POS terminals to withdraw money will continue to be on the rise. And even for those of us who are working on inclusion from the standpoint of migrants who are moving from different countries around the world to other countries where they were not originally born, you see that the issue of inclusion is a big X to solve for. So as we look at rural communities, as we look at people who don't have access to fancy smartphones, fintechs must continue to innovate to create solutions that will go on to take these same amazing services that they've done as layers to traditional banking and take it to USSD features, take it to feature phones, take it to voice prompts, take it to agency banking, find more ways to be able to reach the unreached, because that's really the set of people that we're trying to look at. And over 1.7 billion people around the world right now do not have, banking services. And when we narrow it down to Nigeria, there are more than 60 million people who are unbanked, so it gives an opportunity for all of us to be able to create something fabulous and remarkable that actually addresses some of those critical sectors of the economy. Because whenever we don't, we're actually leaving money on the table.
All right, so let's look at the issue of security, which is also one of the key issues that we have now. For instance, you're talking about some of the things that fintech banks are doing that the traditional banks have not been able to do, so to speak, now. But if you're looking at security, how secure are these platforms, and also the KYC? How again do you do that before you get people on board your platforms?
It's super necessary to be able to understand that despite the fact that we're fintechs, we also have regulations. And the Central Bank of Nigeria has put in several regulatory procedures, that many have debated in several ways to be either effective or not. But these regulations actually put even all fintechs in the place that they should be. Requirements like KYC and customers, knowing your customer, are very crucial. And platforms must be required to enable two-factor authentication, ensuring that all their users' data is encrypted, and also essentially use platforms for collecting and sending out payments. I already have all the PSS, the certifications that the federal government or the CBN has put in place. So actually, fintechs are not just existing out of like particularly the credible ones. I know of Vessi, I know of Payday, I know of several other ones who are out there who essentially have to go through this whole hoop of making sure that all their customers are digitally verified, or the customers have, one form of identification or the other. Today in Nigeria, I think one of the clearly most acceptable is either your international passport or your national identity card, which essentially show that it's like a way to create some immutability and be able to tell that, okay, this person is who they say they are. It continues to be a major issue because, of course, a lot of things around data in Nigeria is still being worked out, but platforms have the responsibility to provide encryption, provide two-factor authentication, several secure ways to be able to make sure that people will get access only to what they are actually on and not to other people's accounts. So it's a responsibility. Security remains a continuing growing concern, but it's something that I think every single fintech must put in place, and that it's being regulated and checked by the Central Bank of Nigeria as well.
All right, let me hold you there for a bit and let me bring back Favor again, to take us through some of these challenges. I mean, as it is, what would be your major challenge? What exactly would you say is the major challenge in ensuring that, this boom continues? This, this emerging technology grows beyond what it is today? Favor, your mic is on mute. Can you unmute it?
Oh, sorry, yeah. So before the major challenge was funding, getting access to funding out there, but it's becoming increasingly very easy to like get money from people, both locally and internationally. I feel like the major challenge we might face is just like reliable systems. If you're building infrastructure to enable people to move money, how reliable is it? If I send money right now, how long will it take to get to the destination? So I feel like if we secure very reliable platforms that do remittance, simplify, that's your funding, have access to funding, or the commitment. Since we have mentors, we have a lot of funding, a lot of mentors, we have a lot of resources. We just need a stable infrastructure to keep this thing going.
All right, so we kind of lost your thought for a bit, Favor, because the internet was kind of breaking. If you could come again.
So I feel like the major challenge would be an infrastructure to keep this going. If you have a stable infrastructure that lets you move money, that lets you verify users, pretty much we are all going to be good.
All right, that's your thoughts in a nutshell. So, all right, let me just hold you there and just bring in Olumide again. Olumide, so I mean, after all has been said and done, what are the disadvantages, so to speak, now as it stands in this space?
Okay. Basically, the disadvantage there is usually every year we have new technology coming up, new things coming up, and engineers always have to be on their toes to learn new stuff, like they need to be up to date. So basically, the normal challenge that a software engineer usually have is keeping up to date, which is not a problem. Before you become an engineer, of course, you need to love learning, because it's a process that never ends for us. But sometimes it gets challenging because today we have a new one and we need to start using it. Of course, we need to always use the best practice to get the technology working out there. You don't use yesterday's technologies to get it done. So being on top of the game is usually the most challenging thing that we usually have. Yeah.
All right. So now you're talking about updating your skills. So because I'm looking at it from the point of fraudulent activities and all of that. How do you protect the entities that you work for when things like this come up, from attacks, especially cyber attacks?
So basically, just what was said, we have people in the domain who actually my people who are also on this call with me, we agree with me. Most time, before a company even launch, we usually do a pen test, and that one makes sure that your application cannot be hacked and can't be hacked anyway. So basically, we have a lot of people. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I was just thinking about what you said, about building an application that can be hacked, because, there is
No, no,
this
no, no.
common
Of
there's this
course,
common
like you have
saying
to
that,
like.
for every technology there is this loophole. But let me just hold you there for a bit. We need to take
You're
a quick
right.
break.
You're
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So let's just hold it for a bit. We need to take a quick break, and when we come back, I'll come back to you again, to just give us or shed more light, on what you were saying. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We still have with us our panelists joining us via Zoom from Kigali, Ibadan, as well as Dallas, Texas. But just before we went on break, Olumide, you were trying to talk about, how you stay on top of your game, especially when there are cyber attacks, coming the way of your entity.
Okay.
Olumide,
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. So basically, apart from you building a secure sites on the back end, because most of the time when we're talking about security, we don't we know that on the front end there is easily it's easy for anyone to attack any information there. So we usually don't put sensitive information on the front end for people to see. But on the back end, so many security things are going on the back end to make sure that the data coming into the server is well secured, and of course, and like I said, every company always have there are companies who actually do those pen testing that I said, and the major thing is just to try to break try to like access your system, make sure to see that it's actually secured enough. They are more like what should I call them? They are more like hackers, but they are paid to act like any hacker coming from any parts of the world trying to like break into your system and see if it is vulnerable or not. So basically, all those things are in place to make sure that security is ensured for the system. Yeah.
All right, so let's hope all of that goes goes as planned, so that people don't get all of those hacks and fraudulent activities do not take place. But let me hold you and bring Favor and Olushola. I mean, either of you could take on this. So I'm looking at one of the things that people look at is the charges that comes with having to use any of these platforms. Some would say it's kind of high, some would say it's low, but the charges are kind of, whether it's high or low, it's kind of relative, depending on how much one has, in his accounts. But is there, Olushola, you talked about regulation earlier on. So is there like a regulation as to how much in terms of percentage now that you can charge, when the transaction is being made on any of the platforms?
Most fintechs,
okay,
they would usually not charge significantly higher than traditional banks, because you will see that fintechs are trying to gain entry in a way. So basically what has been charged for most of the fintechs is usually not significantly higher. But yes, there are guidelines in place, that there are policies and compliance policies that have been set aside by the regulators to make sure that every single fintech, is compliant with what they're charging. Also, when you're still trying out your model, you will see clearly that the users are the one who will tell you the truth. Your data is what will tell you the truth. If the charges are significantly higher, then people will go back and renege back to their traditional banks. But what I'm sure of is that many of the fintechs like ours partner as well with very innovative challenger banks. Many of these challenger banks are insured by the NDIC and by the and by the Central Bank of Nigeria. They're regulated by that, and so certain charges like the stamp duties and all of that are pretty constant. And fintechs who are smart would not charge remarkably higher than many of these banks if they want to retain their customers. One other thing I see, however, is that some fintechs also have the opportunity to be able to take certain fees that are capped at certain amounts. So yes, you're able to take a fee, but you're capped at a certain amount just to be able to provide a level of value to your customers that is commensurate with what you're charging. But then the businesses have to run, so there will certainly be some charges. But the goal isn't to charge, the goal is to continue to provide innovative solutions to our customers.
Yeah, that's why sometimes I just noticed that some of these banks would put out adverts to say, oh, for your first 15 transfers, it's going to be free. and all of that. I believe, like you said, the whole game or the whole aim, is to get more people on board. But on that note, now let's look at moving forward. What would you expect to see? In terms, what regulation would you expect to see? Apart from what we have on ground.
I personally look forward to seeing a better level playing field for many of the emerging tech startups. Like Vesti, for example, is less than a year, and we've made like remarkable, feats already, having thousands of users. We're heading towards 50,000 users now, and with nearly $1 million in in-app transactions. And these kind of organizations, fintechs, are essentially promising. I've seen that in Payday. I've seen that in many of the other emerging fintech startups as well. So I want to see a more level playing ground where the Central Bank of Nigeria provides additional support for emerging fintech startups without any form of prejudice to like the ones who have already been existing, because the work is huge and there's a lot of work that needs to be done. There's several people who are underbanked and unbanked entirely, and the infrastructure has to be in place, but there also has to be a more enabling environment. Most of the organizations that are raising money, even ours as well, have actually done most of this through the diaspora and through international and foreign organizations. There has to be some more consolidated effort around local funds, and of course funding coming from even government entities to provide tax breaks, to provide opportunities for organizations to actually focus on innovation, which is actually supposed to be our business. So I see a lot of place, a lot of opportunities for improvement, around a level playing ground, providing regulations that is not going to stifle innovation for startups, but actually enable them to be able to achieve more.
All right, let me hold you there. But based on what you were saying now, let me quickly bring Favor, just as we wind down. Now, Favor, based on what Olushola was saying, talking about the level playing ground, I'm looking at Payday's registration, and it seems to me that, Payday was registered in Kigali, in Rwanda. Why is that?
So I feel like you said, you need to provide a level environment which like loans and businesses. I had to leave Kigali to set up Payday because it took me like a week to create the business, get the bank account, and get the residency. See how easy it is. So if you can make that happen in Nigeria, you see people coming in and building. So I feel like that's the biggest part. We create a very simple system and let people like launch and scale their businesses pretty much.
All right, Favor Ori, thanks for joining us today on the program. You are the CEO of Payday, as well as Olushola Amuson, the CEO at Vesti App, and also Olumide Gerald. You are a software engineer at CreateCell. Thanks to all of you for joining us today on the program. Actually, this is the last episode of the year. So again, Merry Christmas to all of you. And of course, as we go into the new year, I wish you the best, and hopefully you provide Nigerians with all the services that they need to be financially, inclusive, and also, be with their families and all of that. But thanks again for joining us today on the program.
Thank you so much, Victor. We really appreciate it.
Indeed. And that's it on the program. Of course, the last episode of the year. Thank you so very much for being part of the program with us for the whole of the year. And of course, join us next year as we bring you exciting topics, guests, and analysis, from all of the trending topics in the world of social media and generally. Thanks for watching. I'm Victor Matthias, and have a prosperous new year.